Welcome to On Demand Module 1, Start the Year Off Right with Inside. This is the first in a series of 5 on-demand modules to help you get started using Inside, language literacy, and content. My name is Nicole Bjornvik, Product Training Manager for National Geographic Learning, and I'll be your presenter for this session. Inside is an intensive reading and language arts middle school program for struggling readers and English learners who are performing 2 or more years below grade level. As I said, this is the first of 5 on-demand training modules to help prepare you for using Inside in your classroom. After you complete this module, you'll want to select either Module 2 or Module 3, depending on which Inside levels you'll be using in your classroom. If your school or district has purchased Inside e-Assessment or the Online Coach, be sure to view Modules 4 and 5 to help you get started. Now that you have Inside, you may be asking yourself a few questions. What does Inside offer me and my students to help us succeed? What is the instructional path of each unit? How should I set up my classroom to promote student success? How do I access the online resources, and how do my students access the online tools? And how do I customize Inside to fit my schedule? During this session, I'll help answer these questions by giving you an overview of the program and all its components, pointing out some of the features of the Teacher's Edition, and walking you through a unit to provide a big picture overview, sharing some information about the importance of class schedules and the physical layout of your classroom in relation to student success, and showing you how to access both the teacher and student resources on Inside Teaching and Inside Learning. And finally, I'll demonstrate how to use the online lesson planner. So let's get started. Inside is an intensive reading and language arts program designed to meet the needs of middle school, striving readers, and English learners. Inside utilizes current and confirmed research-based practices designed to accelerate student growth so that students can return to grade level instruction within 2 years. For English learners, the goal is to connect extensive language development to reading and language arts instruction in order to accelerate academic language and achievement. Inside provides high-interest, age-appropriate texts with built-in supports to provide access to students at a variety of reading levels. There are 5 overlapping levels, each at different language proficiency and reading levels. Students who begin in levels A and B need sequential work in phonemic awareness, phonics, decoding, and spelling, as well as foundational work in vocabulary, language, and writing. Both levels A and B include a complete sequence of phonics skills using the Inside Phonics Kit. As you can see, level A is designed for students who are reading at a 1st through 2nd grade reading level, and level B is designed for students who are reading at a 2nd through 3rd grade reading level. Students who begin in levels C through E need intensive work to build academic vocabulary and language, learn reading strategies, and develop skills in comprehension, literary analysis, and writing. As you can see, level C is designed for students who are reading at a 3rd through 4th grade reading level. Level D is designed for students reading at a 4th through 5th grade reading level. And level E is designed for students reading at a 5th through 6th grade reading level. Throughout levels C, D, and E, language development lessons promote the use of more complex language functions, grammar, and reading strategies that spiral across the levels and are taught with text at increasingly higher reading levels. Inside is standards-based and includes motivating, relevant content and systematic and focused instruction that leads to academic success. Our team of authors brought their own cutting-edge research to Inside. National Geographic Learning collaborated with these well-known authors: Dr. David Moore, author of Teaching Adolescents Who Struggle with Reading, as well as the IRA position paper on motivating adolescent readers; Dr. Deborah Short, author of Double the Work, Challenges and Solutions to Acquiring Language and Academic Literacy for Adolescent English Language Learners; Dr. Alfred Tatum, author of Teaching Reading to Black Adolescent Males; Dr. Josefina Tinajero, author of several comprehensive, multi-component reading and language arts and ESL programs; and Gretchen Burnaby, author of Reviving the Essay and the Good Writers Kit. Each one of these authors brings a commitment and a unique experience to the challenges facing middle school striving readers and English learners. Our author team is a group with powerful convictions, and they poured their passion into the development of Inside. The research from our authors is available right at your fingertips. In every teacher's edition, you will find the first tab is titled Best Practices. In this section, the Inside program authors present best practices for teaching, practices that are grounded in current research and built into the reading, writing, and language instruction in Inside. With 5 levels in Inside, the instructional path in levels A and B is different from that found in levels C, D, and E. During this session, I will begin by focusing on levels A and B, and once I've provided the big picture overview of the unit layout, we'll move on to levels C, D, and E. Now let's take a look at the Inside student materials for motivation and engagement for levels A and B. First, we have the student book, which is full of relevant, motivating content at an appropriate reading level, with theme books to provide vocabulary, English structures, and basic comprehension skills. The student book is also available as an e-edition format, either online or on CD, but these are both separate purchases. The practice book provides motivating content in support of the language, reading, and writing instruction. The Folktale collection includes 16 multicultural tales for independent reading. Each of these books focuses on the language structure taught in the unit and provides 3 songs that allow students to hear and use the structure. And the online resources students have access to are found on the Inside Learning website at insideng.com. This site includes numerous resources to support the instruction, including links to related websites and selection summaries in 8 languages. We've looked at the motivating student materials for levels A and B. Now let's take a few minutes to see what's available for you. The Teacher's Edition is your complete resource for planning and instruction, with CDs containing songs, chants, and other recordings for language development, as well as reading fluency models. The entire Teacher's Edition is also available as an interactive online version. The Teacher's Edition Practice Book is an annotated Teacher's Edition that provides answers and models of student responses. The language transparencies are instructional transparencies for grammar, language transfer issues, and academic language frames. The Assessment Handbook includes a complete array of tools for monitoring student progress. The Inside Phonics Kit provides materials for instruction in phonemic awareness, phonics, decoding, spelling, and word recognition. And the online resources teachers have access to are found on the Inside Teaching site at insideng.com. The site includes an online lesson planner, interactive Teacher's Edition, professional development video footage, and an extensive training and coaching resources to model the research-based strategies. In this session, we will focus on the Teacher's Edition and the online resources, but please be sure to take some time to become familiar with all of the resources you'll be using. Your Teacher's Edition is your complete resource for planning, instruction, and assessment. I'd like to take a minute to point out a few key features that I'm sure you'll find very helpful. As I mentioned earlier, the first tab, Best Practices, contains the author monographs. The second tab, Teaching Routines and Strategies, contains daily vocabulary routines, reading routines, cooperative learning strategies, and much more. You'll become very familiar with this section as you move through the program. Tab number 3, Technology and E-Assessment, provides a visual overview of the technology tools that are available in Inside. And the fourth tab, Reading, Writing, and Language, is where the instruction begins. Turn with me to page T4 in your Level A or B Teacher's Edition. I'll be using Level B as an example, but everything that I share will be applicable to both Levels A and B. If you focus on the purpose of each lesson rather than the specific content, you'll be able to easily apply what you learn to the level you're using, because each unit follows the same instructional path. Notice first the teacher wrap that surrounds a copy of the Student Edition pages. This is where you will find your step-by-step lessons that provide systematic, explicit instruction. Next, you'll see the objectives box in the upper left corner. These are clear objectives at the beginning of each lesson. See the gray circles with the numbers in them here in the teacher wrap? They correspond to a specific section of the student book that the instruction is focusing on. And also notice the reference to academic language frames, which help students with their language development. As you move through the lessons, you'll be amazed at the number of supports that are provided for you. Okay, now let's look at the instructional path of each unit in levels A and B. Each unit begins with a unit launch. In the language development section, students will learn key vocabulary, language functions, and grammar. They will use the theme book to listen and read along while focusing on comprehension. The language and literacy section teaches high-frequency words, phonics, and decoding in an age-appropriate and respectful way for adolescent readers. Also, the same comprehension skill that was introduced in the language development lessons continues as students read a selection on their own. The language and content section explores text features and nonfiction genres and focuses on comprehension with an opportunity to read expository text. The comprehension focus will be the same as it is in the language development and language and literacy strands. And finally, the writing project connects key skills from every section: language, literacy, and content. This project will always be tightly connected to what students have been reading. In Inside, each unit is organized around a specific theme that is relevant to students' lives. A wide variety of genres are covered, including various forms of fiction and nonfiction, as well as poetry and lyrics. Notice the specific genre focus is listed on the left of each selection in the unit. Inside also covers a variety of comprehension skills with levels A and B. In this example, the students will be working on cause and effect throughout the unit. Now turn with me to pages T2 and T3. Here you see the unit launch for Unit 1. The purpose of the unit launch is to set the stage for learning by engaging students, making connections, and tapping into prior knowledge. Remember, each unit is thematically based, and the unit launch provides a visual that relates directly to that theme. Also notice within the teacher wrap that students preview the unit and set goals for the unit by creating a mind map. And the folktale collection is referenced in the Read More box. Remember, these folktales are directly related to the language function in the unit. If you turn the page, you'll see that we are now beginning the language development instruction. Students are first introduced to a language function, then they build vocabulary and develop grammar and writing skills that relate to that language function. Finally, it's time to listen and read along with the theme book. Each unit has a coordinating theme book that is separate from the hardcover student book. In the theme book, all of the work students have been doing on vocabulary and grammar come together. This book is sort of the payoff for all of that front-loading. Before reading, each theme book lesson follows the same path. First, students are engaged through the introduction. Next, the genre is linked and defined, key vocabulary words are introduced, and we build vocabulary. After all of the steps are complete, the first reading takes place, followed by a second reading in which the comprehension skill is explicitly introduced and applied. The next strand of instruction is language and literacy. Students learn high-frequency words, receive explicit instruction in phonemic awareness, phonics and decoding, and reading and spelling using tools from the Inside Phonics Kit, and read on their own and build reading fluency using their student books and the fluency models in the CDs in front of your teacher's edition. The language and literacy strand begins with systematic instruction for high-frequency words. Then it's time to begin the phonemic awareness, phonics, and decoding lessons. Let's look at the lesson format. The left page explicitly teaches each sound spelling one at a time using the sound spelling card in Reading Routine 1. Notice that the script is right there for you on the bottom of the page. On the right, you will use the transparency to teach the blending and spelling of whole words. The visual support is especially helpful to the English learners. After this lesson, students are given the opportunity to practice and apply what they just learned to a short decodable text passage. Once these phonics and decoding lessons are complete, students are ready to read a decodable selection on their own. Each selection begins with introducing the selection and defining the genre. Then students review the sound spellings, high-frequency words, and a few words specific to the selection and set a purpose for the reading. Students will read the selection 4 times using various kinds of reading to keep them actively engaged and build fluency. And finally, students respond to the literature. Now let's move on to the next strand, language and content. This section begins with a short lesson that introduces students to a specific nonfiction text feature, leading to success in the content areas. Next, it's time to build background for the selection and introduce key vocabulary. Some key supports found on this page include the pronunciation and part of speech, student-friendly examples rather than dictionary-style definitions, and strong visual support for each word. Students learn these keywords through a systematic routine. When it's time to move on to the language and content selection, students will again focus on the same reading comprehension skill they've been working with on this unit. Now we've reached the final strand in the unit, the writing project. Each writing project follows the same instructional path, beginning with a model study and working through all stages of the writing process. Now that I've given you a brief overview of the instructional path of a unit in levels A and B, take a moment to pause the session and explore a unit in your own teacher's guide. You may want to select the next unit you'll be teaching. So we've completed our overview of levels A and B, where students are learning the fundamentals of language and reading. Now it's time to move on to levels C, D, and E, where students begin to build their reading and writing power. We'll start with the inside student materials for motivation and engagement for levels C, D, and E. First, we have the student book for reading and language, which is full of relevant, motivating content at an appropriate reading level and valuable supports for accessing text. The Reading and Language Student Book is again also available as an e-edition, either online or on CD, and these are separate purchases. The Practice Book provides motivating content in support of the reading and language instruction. And there's also a student book for writing, which includes in-depth instruction in writing to address the writing standards for grades 3 through 6, and the Writer's Workout provides ample practice and application for the writing instruction. The Inside Level Library includes 3 books per unit at different reading levels for extended reading, and the Content Library provides extended reading opportunities for each unit in the content areas. The online resources for C, D, and E are also found on the Inside Learning website at insideng.com. This site includes numerous resources to support the instruction, including links to related websites and the selection summaries in 8 languages. Let's look at the teacher materials now. The Teacher's Edition is again your complete resource for planning and instruction. You have the Annotated Teacher's Edition that provides answers and models for student responses. The Grammar and Language Transparencies are instructional transparencies for grammar, language transfer issues, and academic language frames. There are Writing Transparencies, which include writing supports and academic language frames, and the Writing Workout Teacher's Edition provides answers and models of student responses. The Assessment Handbook again includes your complete array of tools for monitoring student progress. And the online resources teachers have access to, again, are found on the Inside Teaching site. For this session, we'll continue to focus on the Teacher's Edition and the online resources. Because the instruction in levels C, D, and E is different from the instruction in levels A and B, the teacher's editions are a little different as well. The first three tabs are the same for all inside teacher's editions. In levels C, D, and E, the fourth and fifth tabs, reading and language, and writing, is where the instruction begins. Here is a sample page from the teacher's edition. This time I'll be using level D as an example, but as stated previously, everything in levels C, D, and E will be the same because they have the same instructional path. As you can see, the teacher's edition is laid out the same way we saw in level B, with the teacher wrap surrounding a copy of the student book page. The objectives boxes are found at the beginning of each lesson, and the gray circles with numbers in the teacher wrap correspond to specific sections of the student book. Also, small red triangles in the teacher wrap on the right are corrective on-the-spot feedback. These are tips for modifying instruction when students need additional support, and they are built right into the lessons in Inside. Now let's look at the instructional path of each unit in levels C, D, and E. Each unit begins with a unit launch and a focus on genre and a focus on vocabulary lesson. Next, we move into the selection instruction. Each unit includes 3 reading selections. While students are reading the selections, they will also be working on their writing project. The writing in Inside is carefully coordinated so that your students read and write every day. And finally, the unit wrap-up gives students the opportunity to compare across texts and reflect upon their own reading. In Inside, the focus and repetition of one reading strategy per unit helps ensure student mastery, while systematic application across texts promotes strategy transfer. Let's look at this unit as an example. Here on the left, you can see the genre and vocabulary focus of the unit. A wide variety of genres are covered in Inside, including short stories, various types of nonfiction, drama, and poetry and lyrics. Notice the specific genre focus is listed next to each selection. Each unit also has an overarching vocabulary focus, in this case word parts. Here you can see how the focus is broken down within each selection. Inside also teaches 8 reading strategies known to promote reading comprehension. The reading strategy for each selection is found here. And not only is each unit based on a specific genre focus and reading strategy, it's also built around a guiding question. Guiding questions are the engaging and enduring questions we all face. They give students insight into questions central to their lives and make reading matter. Guiding questions, or GQs, help students set authentic purposes for reading, allow for verbal, artistic, and dramatic responses, and have no simple, easy answer, which allows students to become active participants in their own learning. Here you can see a few examples of guiding questions found in Inside. Now turn to a unit launch in your teacher's edition and we'll take a more detailed look at the instructional path of each unit. As you can see, the guiding question, in this case, how powerful is a good idea, is listed along with a large visual that relates directly to that question. Each unit launch also includes a read aloud that's designed to help students make a connection to the theme and guiding question of the unit. Look for the speech bubble on the left side of the teacher wrap. The read-alouds are found in the back of the teacher's edition before the writing tab. If you have a post-it handy, you might want to tab this section for future reference. Also on this page, you'll find opportunities for extended reading using the Inside leveled and content libraries. These books are at a variety of reading levels and genres and are all tied to the unit theme and guiding question. Following the unit launch, it's time to move on to the focus on genre and focus on vocabulary lessons. In the focus on genre lesson, students learn about an aspect of a genre or the defining elements or underlying structures of that genre. The Focus on Vocabulary lesson provides explicit instruction for a vocabulary strategy that students will apply across the 3 selections in the unit. A few of the strategies covered include using word parts, using context clues, and using word origins. Both the Focus on Genre and Focus on Vocabulary lessons are organized to move responsibility to the students through the gradual release of responsibility model. First, students make connections to the strategy or lesson. The next step is to teach or model what it is that you want the students to learn. Then it's time for them to practice what they've learned. As you can see, there are 3 levels of practice. Structured practice occurs with you, the teacher. Guided practice gives students the opportunity to practice on their own, but with you there for support if they need it. And independent practice is when they finally take what they've learned and apply it on their own. You'll see this gradual release of responsibility model throughout the inside lessons. Both of these lessons provide the front-loading necessary for students to be successful with the selections they are about to read within the unit. Now it's time to move into the instruction for the first reading selection. Each reading selection follows a consistent lesson path. Let's take a brief look at each of these lessons. The selection launch provides students with an overview of what they will be learning as they read the selection. Notice within this Build Background box there is a reference to the digital library. These videos and visuals are here to build background and spark interest in the upcoming selection. I'll show you how to access the digital library online later in this session. Following the selection launch, it's time to front-load the language and grammar for this selection. Inside provides a consistent and systematic plan for instruction in the forms and functions of grammar and language development. First, students learn a new language function in Tryout Language. This lesson is especially important for English learners. Next, in Learn Grammar, students are introduced to the grammar topic they will be working with throughout the selection, and they have an opportunity to practice it and apply it on their own. The daily grammar lessons build on the grammar topic using grammar transparencies and the practice book for independent practice. At the end of the selection, students will again have the opportunity to apply what they've learned in written and oral activities. Now it's time for the students to learn key vocabulary. The words they learn in this lesson are critical to understanding the selection. Some key supports include the pronunciation and part of speech, student-friendly examples rather than dictionary-style definitions, and again, strong visual support for every word. Students learn these key vocabulary words through a systematic, research-based routine. First, they will rate themselves on how well they know the word when they see it and hear it for the first time. Then they follow the remaining steps in the routine as seen here. The next part of the Prepare to Read lesson introduces students to the reading strategy they will be focusing on throughout the selection. First, they see step-by-step how-to directions for the strategy. In the bottom half of the page, you'll see the strategy in action. This is done by using the text to teach the text. This productive approach helps struggling readers become engaged. Look at the explicit examples of the strategic ways readers can preview and set a purpose for themselves. This highly supportive explicit instruction in both the vocabulary and the comprehension strategy before the students read the selection prepares them for reading success with the upcoming literature selections. Remember, we are trying to show students the path to successful reading, and the before reading lessons do just that. Pause the session and take a few moments to explore the reading selections in this cluster. As you explore, you will see that the literature selection pages have been designed to resemble the mainstream literature series to help prepare students for that expectation, as well as to make them feel comfortable using a book that is different from that of their peers. Once students have finished the reading selection, they have the opportunity to use their new vocabulary to discuss and write about the selection in Connect reading and writing lessons. They can also make connections across the curriculum in research and speaking, literary analysis, vocabulary, listening and speaking, language and grammar, and writing and grammar. It is here that they apply the grammar skills they have been working on since the beginning of the selection. The writing in Inside is carefully coordinated so that your students read and write every day. As you can see in this example, students will use the knowledge of the genre they are working with in their reading for their writing as well. Inside provides a comprehensive scope and sequence of writing in every book to support instruction. Each level begins with the building blocks of writing to ensure that students have a strong foundation. In the building blocks of writing, students are working with paragraph structure. Next, they move on to the writing process, which is taught in explicit detail at each level. The stages of writing are reinforced and extended through all writing projects in the program. And finally, they move on to the Many Writers You Are, where they further develop their writing skills as they take on a variety of writing roles. For example, to describe or explain, writing as a researcher or reporter, or to summarize, and things like that. Compare Across Text gives students the opportunity to make specific comparisons across the 3 selections from the unit. The unit wrap-up gives students the final opportunity to reflect upon their own reading and explore the guiding question once more. This is a powerful culmination to the unit. And finally, wrapping up the unit also includes assessing the students to be certain that they are meeting the standards and progressing along the path to success. There are multiple assessment tools available at the end of each unit, including a reading and language unit test, a writing unit test, a self-assessment, and more. These are all available in your assessment handbook or online through the Inside Teaching website, which we will be looking at shortly. Now that I've given you a brief overview of the instructional path of a unit in level C, D, and E, take a moment to pause the session and explore a unit in your own teacher's guide. Maybe you want to select the next unit you'll be teaching. Now that you have a basic understanding of the instructional path in Inside, take a moment to think about your own classroom. What does it look like? Are the chairs in rows or groups? And how much time do you have to work with your students? We're now going to look at ways to set up your classroom to promote student success and a few suggestions for how you can use your class time effectively with Inside. Again, picture your own classroom. Believe it or not, the arrangement of the desks in your classroom says a lot more to your students than you may think. When classrooms are arranged in the traditional rows with as much space between the chairs and desks as possible, it's as if the teacher is saying, "I'm the teacher. You'll do as I say. I have all the answers. Listen to me. I don't want you sitting near each other because then you'll talk and you won't listen to me. I'm watching you all the time." And the students are thinking, "I have to do what the teacher says. There is one way to do things, the teacher's way." When classrooms are arranged in the connected rows where the desks are pushed together to create rows, it's as if the teacher is saying, "I have the information. I want you to be part of my group, but I'm not ready for you to be on your own. I want to see all of you with your books open, listening and following along. I'll hand out papers and you can pass them down your row." And the students think, "Watch the teacher. He'll show us what to do. I have to stay in my seat. That's where you do the work." When classrooms are arranged in a horseshoe shape, it's as if the teacher is saying, "We're going to work together to learn. We'll have discussions. I'm not going to be the only one thinking, and I'm interested in what you have to say." And students are thinking, "We're going to be expected to think and participate. The teacher will lead our discussions, but we will work together." And when classrooms are arranged in table groups with a small group area and a whole group area, it's as if the teacher is saying, "We're going to be learning together in lots of ways. Sometimes we'll meet as a whole group to learn, and other times I'll sit with a few of you at a time to learn together. And sometimes you'll sit at your tables and work alone." And students are thinking, "We are all learners and will work together. My ideas are valued here and will be used to help others. My teacher cares about what I think and will use that to help me learn." If you think about this type of room arrangement in a middle school classroom, what types of modifications might you make? Maybe the teacher could move from group to group instead of having a separate small group area, or the whole group area may just be a space where students can bring their chairs together. So with your new classroom layout in mind, it's time to think about Inside in a flexible classroom structure. When I say flexible classroom, I'm referring to the idea that all of your students may not be working at the same level, which means you have to add some flexibility to your class routine. This means that while you may work with the entire class for some of your instruction, you may also need to spend some additional time with a small group of students who need extra support. Let's see how Inside fits into this model. Some of the lessons that work best for whole group setting include the unit launch, focus on genre, and prepare to read lessons. When students are working with a partner or small group, they can work on the writing project or grammar lessons. And while working independently, students can read their Inside library book, work in their practice book, or use the Inside Learning site. So depending on the amount of time you have to work with your students, let's look at some sample schedules. If you have your students for a single class period, or approximately 55 minutes, begin with about 25 minutes of whole group direct instruction. Then you can provide time, about 25 minutes, for students to work with a partner or group while you work with students who may need additional support. This may be when you work with your English learners on the grammar lessons. Finally, at the end of the class, it's important to bring the whole class back together for a wrap-up of the lesson. This gives students the opportunity to ask questions and share any aha moments they may have had during the class. If you have a block schedule, you might want to begin with 35 to 40 minutes of whole group instruction. Then you would have about 60 minutes for students to work with partners or groups, and you can work with those students who need additional support. And finally, at the end of the class, you have 10 to 15 minutes for the wrap-up of the lesson. Feel free to pause the session for a few minutes and think about what your class schedule will look like and how you can arrange your classroom to help promote success. In talking about the flexible Inside classroom, one of the independent activities that I mentioned was having students use Inside Learning. Now I'm going to show you how students access Inside Learning and what's available on the website. Once I'm done, you'll have an opportunity to explore Inside Learning on your own right here within the session. The first step is to take students to the website insideng.com. Once they click the Inside Learning link, they have three options. The only one that will be available to all students is the Access Resources link. The other two require an additional purchase. After clicking the Access Resources link, the student selects the Inside level they're working with by clicking on the appropriate book cover. Once the student selects their level, they're taken directly to the web links page for that level. At the top, you'll see two large tabs, Unit Resources and Visual Glossary. Under these tabs, notice the smaller tabs where students select the unit they are currently studying. Also notice the menu box on the left side of the screen. Remember, I mentioned one of the independent activities was having students read their Inside library book. On Inside Learning, each Inside library book has an accompanying student journal that helps students guide their reading, and to access these student journals, the student clicks on the Inside Library Student Journals link. Here they are given the opportunity to select which book they are reading, and once they click on the title of the appropriate book, a PDF of the student journal will open for students to print. When we get to the Inside Teaching site, I'll show you how to access the corresponding teacher's guide. The next slide will take you directly to insideng.com. Click on the Inside Learning link and take a few moments to check out the resources that are available to your students. Now that you've familiarized yourself with all of the student resources on Inside Learning, let's see what's available for you. Of course, step one is getting to the insideng.com site and selecting Inside Teaching. Since you're currently watching this session, you've probably already registered for the site and used your login information to sign in. But just in case, I'll quickly walk through the registration process. First, click Go under the Setup Free Account. Then complete the Account Setup form. When you get to the box that says eTools Key Code, you will find that code on the small postcard in the very front of any teacher's edition. As you can see, this postcard also includes step-by-step directions for registering. After you've completed the registration process, you'll receive an email that contains your username and you're ready to go. Once you've signed in using your username and password, you'll be taken directly to the Inside Teaching opening page. The first tool we're going to look at is the Access Resources link, which provides you with access to electronic versions of all the teaching resources you will be using. You know what that means? No more lugging all your teaching materials home for planning. You now have access to them 24/7 anywhere you have internet access. From this screen, you'll need to make a few selections in order to access the appropriate resources for the level and unit you're working with. First, you'll need to select the appropriate inside level from the drop-down menu. Then, click on the appropriate tab for the unit you're currently working with. And once you've made these selections, almost everything else you select will be here on the left side of the screen in the menu bar. By clicking on the Teacher's Edition link, you'll be taken to a page that lists all lessons in that unit. Also notice the box on the right side of the screen that includes links to additional Teacher's Edition resources. When you click on a specific lesson, a PDF of the TE pages for that lesson will open in a separate window. Remember, this is an interactive Teacher's Edition. Notice the small blue circles with white arrows? Anytime you see one of these, it's a direct link to the corresponding teaching or instructional tool that is mentioned. For example, if I clicked on the link by the red arrow, here the grammar transparency is what's listed. When using levels C, D, and E, you'll also need to know how to access the digital library. When you click on the digital library link in the menu, you'll see the selection list. Clicking on the appropriate selection opens the video player and the video begins to play immediately. At the bottom of the video player, you can pause the video, control the volume, and turn captioning on or off. Now remember those Inside Library Teacher's Guides that I mentioned? By clicking on the Inside Library Teacher's Guides link, a list of the appropriate Inside Library books comes up. Clicking on the title of the book opens a PDF of the Teacher's Guide. These can easily be used as you work with those small groups of students or in literature circles. To get back to the opening page of Inside Teaching, you will need to close the Resources window. Now we're going to visit the Professional Development section of Inside Teaching. Once you select the Professional Development link, you'll be taken to the Professional Development homepage. The Inside in Action Professional Development website is here to support you as you implement Inside in your classroom. When you click on the About Inside in Action tab, you can see an example of the process that has been developed for watching the video lessons. The videos include real teachers in real classrooms working with real students. They're here to help ensure success for you and your students. To watch a video lesson, click the Inside Video Lessons tab and select the video lesson you wish to watch. The video player will appear and your video will start automatically. Also notice the links at the bottom of the video player, which provide access to the appropriate author monograph, the viewing guide, and a reflection and observation tool that can be emailed directly to a reading coach or principal. The next slide will take you directly to InsideNG.com. Sign in to the Inside Teaching website and take a few moments to check out the resources available to you. So you're probably still thinking, how do I customize Inside to fit my schedule? Now I'm going to show you how to use the pacing and the online lesson planner. The online planner has pre-made plans for a single period, a 110-minute block, and a 2.5 to 3 hour block. The online lesson planner makes instructional planning easy. All plans can be personalized to suit your instructional needs and settings. Again, begin by logging in to the Inside Teaching website at InsideNG.com. Once logged in, click on the Lesson Planner link. It only takes 5 easy steps to create your customized lessons. For step 1, create a group by typing in a group name. Step 2 asks you to choose the start date, when you will be starting your instruction. And in step 3, you'll select the inside level this group of students will be using. Then click Next. In step 4, you will select the unit this plan will be based on. You will need to create a new plan for each unit. Click on the Select button next to the appropriate unit, and now you have your final step. In step 5, you will decide if you would like to use a pre-made plan or start from scratch. In the beginning, the pre-made plans will be your best option. These plans have been designed to include all lessons that are covered on tested skills, so your students will be ready for the assessments. As you can see, there are 6 pre-made plan options. Choose the plan that best fits your class and click Go. As soon as you click Go, your plans are ready. Now let me show you the features you can use to make these plans truly your own. Here at the top left corner of the screen, you can advance the planner to show the next or previous weeks by clicking Next or Last. However, remember there are only plans for this one unit. When clicking on the day, for example Monday, you have the ability to add activities to the plan. Remember the inside library students are reading when they're working independently? If you click on the Unit Launch folder, you can click Add next to the Leveled Library option. As soon as I click Add, the new lesson appears on the planner. You can also get a description of each lesson by clicking on the name of that lesson. When the description box comes up, you have a few additional options at the top. You can print the description of just this lesson, you can move the lesson to another day, or you can delete this lesson. When you click Move, a calendar will pop up and you just click on the date you want the lesson to be moved. As soon as you click, it will be moved. The next feature I want to share is the My Activities button. This feature allows you to add some of your own tried and true lessons. When you click on the My Activities button, a list of all previously created activities will pop up. To add a new activity, click Create New Activity in the top right corner. When the Create New Activity window pops up, enter the information you want included in your lesson plan, then click Save and close the My Activities window. Now it's time to add your activity to your plans. Click on the day you want to add the activity to. When the Add Activity window pops up, you will see a blue My Activities folder. Open the folder and click next to the appropriate activity. Immediately, it is added to the lesson plan. The next thing I want to point out is the Edit Calendar tool. Here you can plug in all of the days where school isn't in session, and as you plan, nothing will be added to those dates. When the calendar window pops up, you simply click on the date you want, type in a description like Labor Day or winter break, and click Add. You may want to add all of your known days off at the beginning of the year, but you can add any unexpected days off at any time. Don't worry, if there are already plans for that date you're editing, you will be asked if you want to delete the plans or move them to the next day. When you have finished making adjustments to your lesson plan and you're ready to print, click the Print Plan button. In the Print window, select the time period and how you would like your plans to print, and click Print Preview. Now let's look at one more feature, the My Plans tab. Under the My Plans tab, you will have the ability to view, print, duplicate, delete, or share your previously created plans for each group. As you can see, the online lesson planner truly does make your instructional planning easy, and you can easily customize the plans to suit your instructional needs and settings. Congratulations! You've almost completed the first on-demand module for Inside. This session provided you with an overview of Inside and all of the resources available, as well as a big picture look at the instructional path for each unit. We also spent some time on the importance of setting up the classroom to promote student success and ways to use your class time effectively. And finally, we took a look at all of the fabulous resources available online for both you and your students. Here are some next steps to think about before your next session. Study the next unit in your Teacher's Edition and become familiar with all the components you'll be using. Take some time to set up your classroom and class schedule to promote student success. And be sure to go to Inside Teaching and create your first lesson plan using the online planner. Thank you for attending. Don't forget to check the Attachments tab on the left side of the screen for your certificate of completion, and check back soon for your next module.